Lesson 5, Dilations. A dilation is a transformation that enlarges or reduces a figure. The scale factor is a number that multiplies a quantity. So the two types of dilations are a reduction and an enlargement. A reduction makes the figure smaller, while the enlargement makes it bigger. They both share the same function, and that is kx, ky. This k here is the scale factor. So the coordinate rule for the reduction is to multiply both x and y by a number between 0 and 1. And the coordinate rule for the enlargement is to multiply both x and y by a number greater than 1. So let's begin by drawing the image, our first objective. So here we are given a triangle, which is our pre-image, and we're also given the dilation. So we are going to dilate this triangle by the scale factor of 1/2. So this scale factor is between 0 and 1. So we know that we are going to be reducing the figure, meaning this figure is going to get smaller. So let's begin by writing the pre-image ordered pairs. D is 0, 2, L is 1, 5, and W is 5, 4. So what we will do is multiply both the x and the y by the scale factor, which is 1/2. So we have 0 times 1/2 and 2 times 1/2. 0 times 1/2 is 0. 2 times 1/2 is 1. 1 times 1/2 and 5 times 1/2. 1 times 1/2 is 1/2, and we will write that as a decimal, which is 0.5. And then 5 times 1/2 is 2.5. Lastly, 5 times 1/2 and then 4 times 1/2. 5 times 1/2 is 2.5. And then 4 times 1/2 is just 2. Now that we have our image ordered pairs, all we need to do is plot them. So our first ordered pair is 0, 1, and that is D prime. Then we have 0.5 and 2.5. Now here is 0 and here is 1. 0.5 would be right in between 0 and 1. So I'm going to go to the right 0.5, and then I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2, and then 0.5 would be halfway between the 2 and the 3. So that is L prime. And then finally 2.5, 2, 1, 2.5, and then up 1, 2. And that is W prime. So here we have reduced this figure by the scale factor of 1/2. All right, let's try this one. So for this one, we have a scale factor of 1.5. Now this scale factor is greater than 1. So here we know we are going to enlarge this figure, meaning we are going to make it bigger. So let's begin by identifying our pre-image ordered pairs. N is -2, 2. R is -1, -2. S is 3, 0. And X is 3, 1. Now, both X and Y will be multiplied by our scale factor of 1.5. So -2 times 1.5 and 2 times 1.5. -2 times 1.5 is -3. 2 times 1.5 is 3. -1, -1 times 1.5 and -2 times 1.5. Negative 1 times 1.5 is negative 1.5. And negative 2 times 1.5 is negative 3. 3 times 1.5, 0 times 1.5. 3 times 1.5 is 4.5. 0 times 1.5 is 0. And then finally, 3 times 1.5 and 1 times 1.5. 3 times 1.5 is 4.5. 1 times 1.5 is 1.5. So now we have our image ordered pairs. We just need to plot them. So for n prime, negative 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, negative 3, 3, negative 1.5, negative 3. So we have negative 1.5 and then negative 1, 2, 3. That's r prime. And then 4.50, 1, 2, 3, 4.5. That is S prime. And then 4.5, 1.5, 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 1.5. That is X prime. Go ahead and connect those. And you can see that we have enlarged this figure or made this figure bigger. All right, let's continue with writing the image ordered pairs. This is going to be very similar to what we just did, except we don't have to draw the figure. So here we are given pre-image ordered pairs, and we are going to multiply both the x and the y by 1/2. So 0 times 1/2 and 4 times 1/2 will give us 0, 2. 1 times 1/2 and 5 times 1/2 will give us 0.5, 2.5. 3 times 1/2, 3 times 1/2 will give us 1.5, 1.5. And then finally, negative 1 times 1/2 and 0 times 1/2 will be negative 0.50. Now we're going to multiply each one by 2. We are enlarging. So let's begin with negative 2, 2. Negative 2 times 2 and then 2 times 2 will give us negative 4, 4. Negative 2 times 2, 3 times 2 will give us negative 4, 6. And then 2 times 2, 0 times 2 will give us 4, 0. And then finally, 1 times 2 and negative 2 times 2 will give us 2, negative 4. In our last objective, we will be writing the function. So we just choose one letter. So I've chosen P. So I'm going to take the pre-image ordered pair and the image ordered pair. So P is negative 4, 4. And P prime is negative 1, 1. We need to figure out what the scale factor is. In order to do that, we need to see what we multiply to get from negative 4 to negative 1 or from 4 to 1. So as you look at this, it may be confusing. You may not be able to see what we have multiplied, but I think everyone can easily see what we have divided. So we can easily see that we have divided by 4. Negative 4 divided by 4 would give us negative 1. And 4 divided by 4 would give us 1. However, we don't look at scale factor in terms of division. We must look at it in terms of multiplication. So what can we multiply that will be equivalent to dividing by 4? That is multiplying by 1/4. Multiplying by 1/4 is the same as dividing by 4. So our scale factor is 1/4. Now all we have to do is write our function, which would be 1/4 x, 1/4 y. In our last example, let's go ahead and identify our n, which is negative 1, 2. And our n prime, which is negative 2, 4. So again, we ask ourselves, what did we multiply by to get to the new ordered pair? I can easily see that that is 2. Negative 1 times 2 would give us negative 2. And then 2 times 2 would give us 4. So we know we multiplied by 2, which means that our scale factor is 2. So for our function, that is 2x, 2y.